if there's one thing, Infinite Umbra, that we could look towards for Xbox and their showcases, it has been an incredible run. And I honestly think that she does not get this the actual credit that she deserves. And I want to say, in regards to executives, it is one of the biggest additions Xbox has made. And I'm talking about Tina Amini. Tina Amini, she was a prominent member of IGN, and somehow or another, she has now taken up the position of doing these showcases. And it's clear as day that since she has arrived, every show that she has put her hands on, her and her team, because it's not just her, she works with incredible group of people that don't get mentioned. And that team has delivered not just incredible showcases, right? It's been the I would say a running riot, if you will, on how good their showcases have been. But even some of the smaller ones, the developer directs have been outstanding. Well, you know what, Umbra? Again, this is a 2-question behemoth of a topic, and you know what? The question is, do you expect that Tina Amini, her team, Phil Spencer, and Team Xbox are going to deliver a even bigger showcase than last year? Because again, that is the running rumor that they're expected to have somehow, some way, a bigger show than last year. And I say this all the time, folks. I was ass in seat, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And somehow they're saying it's going to be better. I don't know how that's possible. I want to get your thoughts on whether or not you expect it to be better.
I don't know, Boom, because last year to me was the pinnacle. I don't know if you can,
Yes.
if it's going to do anything, it'll tie with it, right? As far as what they show us.
12 out of 10.
Yeah, right, right. I don't know if it'll outdo it necessarily, but then so now we have to do the math, right? So to speak. We have to speculate on what could be shown, and which is always fun. I'm going to be doing a speculation show too. So let's move to speculation then, right? Because some of the stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be some stuff we didn't hear about or know about. So there is that, but there is also, to be fair, and I know some people might not want to hear it, but there is the looming issue of some games possibly being multi-plat. That's why I'm not sure if it'll be as good for people because of that. So there might be a negative for people, like, that'd have been even better if it wasn't like, oh, these are also going to PlayStation, right? And I'm just being real here. But oh, by the way, I caught the running riot. By the way, I don't think anybody else running riot.
Yeah, that's of course from Halo, which yes. I've actually gotten that, surprisingly enough, which is awesome.
I peeped it. I don't think anybody else was catching it, but I caught you. So let's think about what could be shown. Excuse me. Outer Worlds 2, very likely, right? Matter of fact, will Outer Worlds 2 be out by that point?
No, Outer Worlds 2 is going to be at the end of the year, and there is a developer direct afterwards for 30 minutes.
That's right. So it's a 30-minute Outer Worlds 2 thing. They already said that, so that's okay. So far I'm right. Look at that. So far. So I don't know if they'll show anything for Doom: The Dark Ages. They might, because there is upcoming like DLC for it. So maybe they might show something for that. Tony Hawk Pro Skater may be shown. I expect Ninja Gaiden 4 to be shown. Big Gears of War, maybe E-Day. They might show something. Maybe we can see something of that gameplay wise, and get an idea of how that looks. I expect Fable to possibly show up, and maybe we'll get a specific release date for that. Clockwork Revolution is another obvious standout, which I've said it before. I think Clockwork Revolution looked like it was finished when they showed it, just about like it was that close to being done then. So I'm pretty sure they'll be coming out next year. I'm sure we'll see some gameplay of that. We got the State of Decay 3 we'll finally probably see gameplay of, and Contraband we'll probably finally see that unveiled and see gameplay of that. And then you got other things, like it would be cool to see Blade if they were to show that. And it also would be cool for Everwild to finally pop back up. And oh, look, see, well, Grimshark just said it in the chat too. So Everwild will be good to see finally pop up, and we can actually see what they have changed the gameplay to be centered around, because it seemed like it was directionless before, like they didn't quite know what they wanted to do. So maybe it's some type of monster hunter gatherer Pokemon-esque kind of game now. I don't know how they're going to, how they do what they do, but I'm hoping it's great too. So looking at those games like that, and I'm guessing maybe a few surprises. You might see Persona 4 remake announced there.
What if you see Persona 6 there? Talk about bringing down the house.
That'll be nice. I mean, also another one too is we might finally get maybe I don't know if this will be a shadow drop, but maybe at least you'll hear about the release date for Silksong, Hollow Knight Silksong finally.
Oh yeah, that's another one that could show. That could be a shadow drop for all you know.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's been a long time coming for that one, so that would be dope. And I would say this, and maybe it feels like it's too soon, but it's very possible that we might get the Forza Horizon 6 announced. So, I mean, looking at that, I still think last year's was just really tough to compare to. I put it in the top 3 showcases of all time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anything can outdo it. if at best it could probably tie it. That's what I'm looking at. So those are just some guesses. I'm sure there'll be games that we hadn't heard of, we don't know about, that they will show off. So keeping all of that in mind, I'm not expecting it to outdo last year's exactly. I'm just expecting it to be good. Is that fair to say?
That's very fair to say, and I think that there is. Look, Umbra, it's very difficult to follow up a show like they had last year. Like last year, you said it. It's the pinnacle of Xbox showcases, and it probably might be one of the best ever done. Now, again, that's not being console worry. That's like, folks, come on, man. Go back and, you know what I say, just for some shits and giggles, even after the show, go back and just watch that show in complete disbelief, because you're going to be like, my God, it was just one banger after another. Now, one of the things that is expected this year that's a bit different, and you said it yourself that some people might be soured by this, is the multi-plat angle. And Phil Spencer said it, and I think he said to get people ready for it, that at the end of every trailer, it's going to say where this game is going. I personally don't have a problem with that. At this point, folks, I think that if you don't believe that the multi-plat thing is happening, you're just ice skating uphill. It's just, at this point, it's happening, folks. Sorry. I actually had someone be like, well, Boom, I'm glad that you are enjoying this direction. Folks, here's the thing, and I think I've made myself very clear. I didn't say I like it. I've come to accept it. And that's a big difference than applauding it. Like, I don't, like I said, as much money as Microsoft is going to make, they're not filling my coffers, right? All I get is more investment into the brand through new hardware, new controllers, new ways to play Xbox, and Xbox Game Pass. So ultimately, if they make money and they continue to reinvest into the brand, I'm winning. So do I care where the actual game actually goes? Well, yeah, sure. I used to care. Now I can give a shit. I'm sorry. I just don't. But Umbra, great points all around.
It's the best place to be right now mentally. I mean, because, I think it's just the whole tribalism, console warring thing that
we were conditioned to be buy game for X console, and that's where you played. I mean, I know people don't like to use the word conditioning, but that's ultimately what it was.
It's ultimately what it is. And listen, I mean, I do believe exclusives matter. I haven't changed from that mindset, but now I look at it like, hey, I'm on PC now. I know I keep saying this. I know people are probably tired of hearing me say that, but I look at it so much differently now because I don't look at and constrict myself to a console itself. So it's easier for me. I'm sure it's not going to be as easy for some, but I would say try to get past that part and look at what really matters, and that's getting good games. if they're delivering good games, be you buying it or playing it through Game Pass, that's what ultimately matters right there. You know what I mean? I would just say, just get past it. It is what it is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And again, if the brand has soured you in regards to exclusivity, I understand it. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to try and fight with you that you're wrong or you're right. You're allowed to feel how you feel. The difference is that the industry is changing, and Microsoft, as always, has taken the arrows for doing things that other people or other platforms will not do. Will Sony ever get there? Who knows? Nintendo, good luck, Charlie Brown. But they're doing it their way, and they're making a lot of money, and they're doing things that I actually think is going to force Sony to be different, to follow in the footsteps. Now, again, how long that takes, I have no idea. And I don't want to shift it from the excitement of the showcase, but I just want to say this before I hand the microphone over to Jamie Moran. At some point, if you're just looking at the playing field, someone at Sony, probably Hiroki Totoki, is going to see that for a block of months, 5 of the top 7 most paid for games on PlayStation are Xbox first party. Yes, they are getting 30%. We know that. But they are still someone else's games taking up more than half of the spots for PlayStation. That is a problem for Sony. And they're going to be like, I'm sure there's investors looking at this and say, why aren't we doing that? So again, I don't want to derail the excitement of the showcase, but that is ultimately what's going to happen. I don't know when, but it will eventually. Jamie Moran, I want to get your thoughts on the original question. So I'm going to repose the question to you. Now, obviously, you yourself have talked positively about the influence of Tina Amini and her team. And it's clear as day that when she puts her hands onto these showcases, they are for the better. Last year is, in my opinion, the pinnacle in her Xbox career. Tip of spear, best showcase. I'm going to say that it might be the best showcase in the last decade. And anyone wants to fight me on it, by all means, please. But I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I put it like this. I've watched almost every video game showcase possible for the past 20 years.
Okay, right? Awesome.
And that show last year Microsoft put on was the best. Like, the pacing, the content, the surprises. We live in 2025, or last year with 2024. Everything gets leaked and spoiled online. Everything. But they managed to have surprises. And I think that, you could have an amazing lineup of games for a showcase. And if it all leaks, you'll have people watch that show and say it's mid afterwards because they knew everything. Not that the games were bad and not that the show was bad. It's because they knew everything. And, there were a bunch of games last year that didn't leak, a bunch of gameplay reveals that didn't leak, and people were satisfied. Now, I'll talk about the multi-platform thing quickly because that will be a factor. We all know that they're going to do multi-platform stuff. So, if anyone legitimately watches that showcase and they see a PlayStation logo at the end of one of the trailers, because remember, just because Microsoft's putting games on PlayStation doesn't mean they're putting everything on PlayStation, at least straight away. It's when they're ready and, when they'll be going to the PlayStation or whatever. People can't legitimately act shocked and be angry if that happens. They can't. We already know, right? We've known since January last year, or several months after when things changed. But, I'm an Xbox fan. I cover Xbox as a content creator. Xbox is exciting. They have multiple first-party games come out in the first 5 months of the year, right? We've never really had that before. Xbox is in a place where they have so many different studios where they can shadow drop an Elder Scrolls remake, right?
And be the third best-selling game of the entire year. Go figure.
On a random day, and so many people are happy. Like if I'm angry that more people are going to get to play the game, I'm enjoying. I don't get what we all playing games for. And yeah, I do admit, right? I think Microsoft's strategy about the multi-platform thing, they're doing it the wrong way. I would have actually approached it a completely different way, which would have still done some multi-platform stuff. But the way Microsoft's gone about it with the messaging, it's all a bit messy. But that's all in the past now. We can move forward. Last year's showcase was phenomenal. I don't know how they can top it, right? I think that if they have a showcase that's almost as good as last year, that's still a brilliant showcase, right? Because they raised the bar so bloody high. I don't know how they can, pass it. Now, things I do think will be there. Contraband, as I've been saying on Twitter for the past month or so, I think Contraband will be there. Avalanche announced that back in 2021. I feel like it's time. This is a 2-player game. I don't think it's meant to be that massive, and this is the longest development time Avalanche has had for any game ever. Just Cause 4 didn't take this long to develop. What else? Oh yeah, I do think maybe this is the broken clock is right twice a day approach thing. I do think Final Fantasy 7 and 16 will be there.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone actually tweet about that. Quite a few people actually responded to it. They're like, at this point, if it's not at this showcase, then it's just not happening. Like,
I get it. Square Enix, they've been saying for the past 2 years that we're including Microsoft in our multi-platform strategy, and I'm sitting here like, well, bloody show us then. But it was already announced for Switch, at least 7 remake. It has to be there.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Like I know there's a lot of people.
I'd love a shadow drop too. Like if you really want to, you make it up to fans. And I'm being a bit facetious, but at this point, Jamie, if it's going to be there, just release it. I will say this: I honestly believe it is the contract for PlayStation, and that just goes to show you the pettiness of Sony Interactive Entertainment, because it seems like this whole Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox thing is literally being held up by Sony, wanting to hold it longer, which to me is ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, it's a weird situation, because Final Fantasy VII. I've fortunately for a lot of people, I have a very good memory. I know that Final Fantasy VII is linked to PlayStation, always have been, and always will be, right? Always has been, just say. Now, back in 2015, and yes, I'm going that far back. Back in 2015, PlayStation had a PSX showcase later in the year, and they announced that the original Final Fantasy VII, the one that was also available on Steam at the time, it's coming to PlayStation 4 and will only ever be on PlayStation 4. And then 5 years later, we get it on Xbox and Switch. Right? I'm the only person in the world that remembered this. And Sony probably have some weird thing in their contracts or something. So my thought is that 7 and 16 will be there. 16 will shadow drop during the show, and 7 will launch in October.
Okay,
you heard it here first.
Good theory.
I do think Persona 6 will be there. The main reason is Atlas Games seem to pop out 1 or 2 new games every year somehow. I think they have some sort of like cauldron in the back where they like brewing these games up because they're on a bloody roll. I think some Yakuza games will be there in some capacity. Now, when it comes to their first party games, I do think we will see an extended gameplay trailer for Fable. I think we'll see something like that for Perfect Dark. I do think we might see Gears E-Day gameplay because we had the fancy in-engine trailer last year, and honestly I think a bunch of surprises, right? People have been showing up to Xbox's showcase for the past few years, and they've been able to surprise us with one thing or another. And maybe it's a collection of older Fable games, maybe it's a whole new IP. Obsidian tends to make 3 or 4 games at the same time somehow. You have Project Mara in development over at Ninja Theory. Like, they can really surprise us. And I think that you have people arguing and chatting online that, multi-platform Xbox is dead, that type thing. They hear listening to an Xbox podcast looking forward to Xbox games. Right? Xbox is an exciting topic right now. What is it to talk about PlayStation? Marathon's dead on arrival, basically. Fair Games is dead on arrival, basically. They have no roadmap, and, Ghost of Yotai looks cool. Woohoo. But Xbox games, they're coming out every so often. And look, I think Xbox has a lot to do when it comes to marketing their console. They need to get back into the backwards compatibility and all that stuff. That's a topic for another day. I know I'm rambling. But I think this showcase is going to satisfy people because, we don't really get many big showcases throughout the year, and Xbox is in a place now where like they can come out with a developer direct and announce something brand new. Because remember, back in January, they randomly shadow dropped Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, right? And then randomly announced Ninja Gaiden 4. I do think we'll see gameplay for that as well. My point is that they can surprise us, and somehow in 2025 they can actually keep surprises somehow. So yeah.
Again, they have a lot of games. You know what's interesting, gentlemen, and this is not an attack on anyone's opinion. I've seen more people in the last couple of weeks when we start talking about we're all excited for the showcase. It's happening. It's 10 days away. Everyone's excited, right? And I hear a lot of people like, yeah, but I'm really not excited for this one. Kind of know everything that's happening. And I don't think that we actually do. See, I think that because Xbox has this roadmap that has been very clear as day, we as fans expect certain games to come out. Like, for instance, I think it's fair to say we know that next year is somehow going to be better than this year. And this first 5 months has been incredible for first-party games. Second half of 2025 looks like it's going to be, you have Black Ops 7, which is the sequel to Black Ops 2. That's happening October, November, right? You obviously have Obsidian's space joint at the end of the year, right? That's happening. That's 2. Obviously, Gears of War Reloaded is happening in August. So of course, that's second half of the year. I don't know what else that we could get, because the Outer Worlds, Call of Duty, and a remake of the original Gears of War is a lot. Now, again, it's spread out. One is August. One is going to be October. Probably one's going to be November. So what is going to fill in those other games, those other months, and what games are they going to put there? I honestly don't know. It's not going to be Forza Horizon. I think that's next year. Gears 6 or Gears E-Day next year. I think the Halo Combat Evolved is probably next year for a lot of reasons, because obviously it's going to be the 25th anniversary of the brand, of Master Chief, of Combat Evolved, so that makes sense. Clockwork Revolution seems like one that looked really ready when we saw it a couple of years ago, and they've been started talking about it. Like, NXL does those funny, commercials, or those 30-second ads for their studio on Twitter, and they're hilarious. They started to talk about it. I think that could be one of the games that is announced and dropped this year. That would be 4. And I know I'm missing something, but look, at the end of the day, it is going to be an exciting time.